The Chang River Cut, ChʻIchou scheme. Yuan Shang was puffed up with pride after his victory over Yüan, and without deigning to wait the arrival of his brothers, he marched out to Liang to meet the army of ChʻIchou. Chang Liu came out to challenge him, and Yuan Shang, accepting the challenge, rode out with spear set. But he only lasted to the third bout when he had to give way. Chang Liu smote with full force, and Shang, quite broken, fled pell-mell to ChʻIchou. His defeat was a heavy shock to his father, who had a severe fit of hemorrhage at the news and swooned. The lady Liu, his wife, got him to bed as quickly as possible, but he did not rally, and she soon saw it was necessary to prepare for the end. So she sent for Shang and Fang Kai that the succession might be settled. They came and stood by the sick man's bed, but by this time he could no longer speak. He only made motions with his hands. When his wife put the formal question whether Shang was to succeed, he nodded his head. Shang at the bedside wrote out the dying man's testament. Presently he uttered a loud moan. A fresh fit of bleeding followed, and he passed away. Born of a line of nobles famous for generations, he himself in his youth was wayward always and headstrong. Vainly he called to his side captains skilled and courageous, gathered beneath his banner countless legions of soldiers. For he was timid at heart, a lambkin dressed as a tiger, merely a cowardly chicken, phoenix-feathered but spurless. Pitiful was the fate of his house, for when he departed brother with brother strove, and quarrels arose in the household. Shang and some others set about the mourning ceremonies for the dead man. His wife, the lady Liu, put to death 5 of his favorite concubines, and such was the bitterness of her jealousy that, not content with this, she shaved off the hair and slashed the faces of their poor corpses, lest their spirits should meet and rejoin her late husband in the land of shades beneath the 9 springs. Her son followed up this piece of cruelty by slaying all the relatives of the unhappy concubines, lest they should avenge their death. Shang and Fang Kai declared Yuan Shang's successor with the titles of Minister of War and General Governor of the 4 prefectures of ChʻIchou, Yu, and Ping, and sent in a report of the death of the late governor. At this time, Yuan Tian, the eldest son, had already marched out his army to oppose ChʻIchou. But hearing of his father's death, he called in ChʻIchou and Ping to consult as to his course of action. "In your absence, my lord," said ChʻIchou, "the 2 advisers of your younger brother will certainly set him up as lord, wherefore you must act quickly." "Those 2, Shang and Fang, have already laid their plans," said Ping. "If you go you will meet with some misfortune." "Then what should I do?" asked Tian. ChʻIchou replied, "Go and camp near the city and watch what is taking place while I enter and inquire." Accordingly, ChʻIchou entered the city and sought an interview with the young governor. "Why did not my brother come?" asked Shang after the usual salutes. ChʻIchou said, "He cannot come as he is in the camp unwell. By the command of my late father I take the lordship. Now I confer upon my brother the rank of general of cavalry, and I wish him to go at once to attack ChʻIchou, who is pressing on the borders. I will follow as soon as my army is in order." "There is no one in our camp to give advice," said ChʻIchou. "I wish to have the services of Shang and Fang Kai." "I also need the help of these 2, said Shang, "and as I am always working at schemes, I do not see how I can do without them." "Then let one of these 2 go," replied Tu. Shang could do no other than accede to this request, so he bade the 2 men cast lots who should go. Fang Kai drew the lot and was appointed, receiving a seal of office. Then he accompanied ChʻIchou to the camp. But when he arrived and found Tian in perfect health, he grew suspicious and resigned. Tian angrily refused to accept his resignation and was disposed to put him to death. but ChʻIchou privately dissuaded him, saying, "Tsao is on the borders, and he must be kept here to allay your brother's suspicions. After we have beaten Tsao, we can at once make an attempt on ChʻIchou." Yuan Tian agreed and forthwith broke up his camp to march against the enemy. He reached Liang and lost no time in offering battle. He chose for his champion Wang Kao, and when he rode out, Tsao sent Su Huang to meet him. These two had fought but a few bouts when Wang Kao was slain. At once Tsao's army pressed forward, and Tian suffered a severe defeat. He drew off his army and retired into Liang, whence he sent to his brother for reinforcements. Shang and his advisor Shang discussed the matter, and half a legion only was sent. Tsao, hearing of the dispatch of this meager force, sent 2 generals to waylay them, and the half-legion was destroyed. When Tan heard of the inadequate force sent, and their destruction, he was very wrath and roundly abused Feng Kai. Feng replied, "Let me write to my lord and pray him to come himself." So Feng Kai wrote, and the letter was sent. When it arrived, Shang again consulted Shang, who said, "ChʻIchou, your elder brother's advisor, is very guileful. Formerly he left without discussion because Tsao was on the border. If Tsao be defeated, there will certainly be an attempt on you. The better plan is to withhold assistance and use Tsao's hand to destroy your rival." Shang took his advice, and no help was sent. When the messenger returned without success, Tian was very angry and showed it by putting Feng Kai to death. He also began to talk of surrendering to Tsao. Soon spies brought news of this to Shang, and again Shang was called in. Said he, "If he goes over to Tsao, they will both attack ChʻIchou, and we shall be in great danger." Finally, Shang and Su Yu were left to take care of the defense of the city, and Yuan Shang marched his army to the rescue of his brother. "Who dares lead the van?" said Yuan Shang. 2 brothers named Lu volunteered, and 3 legions were given them. They were the first to reach Liang. Tian was pleased that his brother had made up his mind to play a brotherly part and come to his aid, so he at once abandoned all thought of going over to the enemy. He being in the city, Yuan Shang camped outside, making that an angle of their strategic position. Before long, Yuan Hsi, the second brother, and their cousin, Cao Can, arrived with their legions and also camped outside the city. Engagements took place daily, and Shang suffered many defeats. On the other hand, Tsao was victorious and elated. In the 2nd month of the 8th year, Tsao made separate attacks on all 4 armies and won the day against each. Then they abandoned Liang, and Tsao pursued them to ChʻIchou, where Tian and Shang went into the city to defend it, while their brother and cousin camped about 30 li away, making a show of great force. When Tsao had made many attacks without success, ChʻIchou proffered the following plan. He said, "There is dissension among the Yuans because the elder has been superseded in the succession. The brothers are about equally strong, and each has his party. If we oppose them, they unite to assist each other, but if we have patience, they will be weakened by family strife. Wherefore send first a force to reduce Liu Pio in ChʻIchou, and let the fraternal quarrels develop. When they have fully developed, we can smite them and settle the matter." Tsao approved of the plan. So leaving ChʻIchou as prefect of Liang and Tsao hung as guard at Quantu, the army went away toward ChʻIchou. The 2 brothers Tian and Shang congratulated each other on the withdrawal of their enemy, and their brother Hsi and cousin marched their armies back to their own districts. Then the quarrels began. Tian said to his confidants, "I, the eldest, have been prevented from succeeding my father, while the youngest son, born of a second wife, received the main heritage. My heart is bitter." Said ChʻIchou, "Camp your men outside, invite your brother and Shang to a banquet and assassinate them. The whole matter is easily settled. And Tian agreed. It happened that a certain Wang Hsiu came just then from ChʻIchou, whom Tian took into his confidence. Wang opposed the murder plan, saying, "Brothers are as one's limbs. How can you possibly succeed if at a moment of conflict with an enemy you cut off one of your hands? If you abandon your brother and sever relationship, whom will you take in all the world as a relation? That fellow ChʻIchou is a dangerous mischief maker, who would sow dissension between brothers for a momentary advantage, and I beg you to shut your ears and not listen to his persuasions." This was displeasing to Tian, and he angrily dismissed Wang, while he sent the treacherous invitation to his brother. His brother and Shang talked over the matter. Shang said, "I recognize one of ChʻIchou's stratagems, and if you go, my lord, you will be the victim of their plot. Rather strike at them at once." Whereupon Shang rode out to battle. His brother Tian, seeing him come with 5 legions, knew that his treachery had been discovered, so he also took the field. And when the forces were near enough, Tian opened on Shang with a volley of abuse. "You poisoned my father and usurped the succession. Now you come out to slay your elder brother." The battle went against Tian. Shang himself took part in the fight, risking the arrows and the stones. He urged on his men and drove his brother off the field. He took refuge in Yuan. Yuan Shang drew off his men to his own city. Yuan Tian and ChʻIchou decided upon a new attack, and this time they chose Tsern as leader. Yuan Shang went to meet him. When both sides had been arrayed and the banners were flying and the drums beating, Tsern rode out to challenge and railed at his opponent. At first Shang was going to answer the challenge himself, but Luo Guanzhong actually went out. Lu and Tsern met, but had fought only a few bouts when the latter fell. Tian's men were once more defeated and ran away to Yuan. Shang urged his master to press home the advantage, and Tian was driven into the city, where he fortified himself and would not go out. So the city was besieged on 3 sides. Tian asked his strategist what should be done next, and he said, "The city is short of food, the enemy is flushed with victory, and we cannot stand against them. My idea is to send someone to offer surrender to ChʻIchou, and thus get him to attack ChʻIchou. Your brother will be forced to return thither, which will leave you free to join in the attack. We may capture Shang. Should ChʻIchou begin to get the better of your brother's army, we will lend our force to help him against ChʻIchou, and as ChʻIchou's base of supply is distant, we shall drive him off. And we can seize on ChʻIchou and begin our real career. Supposing this scheme be attempted, who is the man for a messenger? I have one, Hsinping's younger brother. He is magistrate here in this very place. He is a fluent speaker and good scholar and suited to your purpose." So Hsinp was summoned and came readily enough. Letters were given him, and an escort of 3 companies took him beyond the border. He traveled as quickly as possible. At that time Tsou's camp was at Hsiping, and he was attacking Liu Piao, who had sent Yuan out to offer the first resistance. No battle had yet taken place. Soon after his arrival, Hsinp was admitted to the minister's presence, and after the ceremonies of greeting Tsou, asked the object of the visit. Hsinp explained that Yuan Tian wanted assistance and presented his dispatches. Tsou read them, and told the messenger to wait in his camp, while he called his officers to a council. The council met. Shang said, "Yuan Tian has been forced into making this offer because of the pressure of his brother's attack. Put no trust in him." Lu Xin and Man Chang said, "You have led your armies here for a special purpose. How can you abandon that and go to assist Yuan Tian?" "Gentlemen, not one of you is giving good advice," interposed Yu. "This is how I regard it. since there is universal trouble, in the midst of which Liu Piao remains quietly content with his position between Chang and Han, it is evident that he has no ambition to enlarge his borders. The Yuans hold 4 ChʻIchou and have many legions of soldiers. Harmony between the two brothers means success for the family, and none can foresee what will happen in the empire. Now take advantage of this fraternal conflict, and let them fight till they are weakened and have to yield to our minister. Then Yuan Shang can be removed, and when the times are suitable, Yuan Tian can be destroyed in his turn. Thus peace will ensue. This present combination of circumstances is to be taken advantage of to full measure. ChʻIchou realized the truth of this and treated the messenger well. At a banquet he said, "But is this surrender of Yuan Tian real or false? Do you really think that Shang's army is sure to overcome him?" Sin Pi replied, "Illustrious one, do not inquire into the degree of sincerity, rather regard the situation. The Yuans have been suffering military losses for years and are powerless without, while their strategists are put to death within. The brothers seize every chance to speak evil of each other, and their country is divided. Add to this famine, supplemented by calamities and general exhaustion, and everybody, wise as well as simple, can see that the catastrophe is near. The time ordained of heaven for the destruction of the Yuans is at hand. Now you have a force attacking Ye, and if Yuan Shang will not return to give aid, the place of refuge is lost. If he help, then Tian will follow up and smite him, making use of your power to destroy the remnant of his brother's army, just as the autumn gale sweeps away the fallen leaves. If he do not, then he will attack ChʻIchou. Now ChʻIchou is rich, the government peaceful, the people submissive, and it cannot be shaken. Moreover, there is no greater threat to it than Hopai. If that be reduced, then the task is complete. I pray you, sir, think of it." "I am sorry that I did not meet you earlier," said ChʻIchou, much gratified with this speech. Forthwith orders were given to return and attack ChʻIchou. Yuan Ter, fearing this retirement was only a ruse, allowed it to proceed without interference, and himself returned to ChʻIchou. When Yuan Shang heard that ChʻIchou had crossed the river, he hastily led his army back to Ye, ordering the 2 Lus to guard the rear. His brother Tian started from Pingyuan with a force in pursuit. He had not proceeded far when he heard a bomb, and 2 bodies of men came out in front of him and checked his progress. Their leaders were Lu Wang and Lu Xiang. Tian reined in and addressed them, saying, "While my father lived, I never treated you badly. Why do you support my brother and try to injure me?" The 2 men had no reply to make, but they dismounted and bowed before him, yielding submission. Tian said, "Do not surrender to me but to the minister," and he led them back to camp, where he waited the arrival of ChʻIchou and then presented the pair. ChʻIchou received them well. He promised his daughter to Tian to wife, and he appointed the 2 brothers as advisors. When Tian asked ChʻIchou to attack ChʻIchou, the reply was, "Supplies are short and difficult to transport. I must turn the waters of the Kishui into the Peiho from Chiho whereby to convey my grain, and afterwards I can advance." Ordering Tian to remain in Pingyuan, ChʻIchou retired into camp at Liang. The 2 brothers Lu, who were renegades from Yuan Shang, were now raised to noble rank and followed the army as supernumeraries. Qiu noted this advancement and said to Tian, "He has promised you a daughter to wife. I fear that bodes no good. Now he has given titles of nobility to the 2 Lus and taken them with him. This is a trap for the northern people, but he intends evil toward us. You, my lord, should have 2 general seals engraved and send them secretly to the brothers, so that you may have friends at court ready for the day, when ChʻIchou shall have broken your brother's power, and we can begin to work against him." The seals were engraved and sent. As soon as the brothers received them, they informed ChʻIchou, who smiled, saying, "He wants your support, so he sends you seals as officers. I will consider it as soon as Yuan Shang has been dealt with. In the meantime, you may accept the seals, till I shall decide what to do." Thenceforward Tian was doomed. Shang and his master also discussed the situation. ChʻIchou is getting grain into Peiku, which means an attack on ChʻIchou. "What is to be done?" asked Shang. Shang replied, "Send letters to Yin Kai, chief of Yuan, bidding him camp at Mount Shang to secure the road to Shangtang and direct ChʻIchou to maintain Hanton as a distant auxiliary. Then you may advance on Yuan and attack ChʻIchou. The plan seemed good. Yuan Shang left Shang and Chang Lin in charge of ChʻIchou, appointed 2 captains Ma Yen and Chang Ki as van leaders, and set out hastily for Yuan. When Tian heard of the approach of his brother's army, he sent urgent messages to ChʻIchou, who said to himself, "I am going to get ChʻIchou this time." Just at this time it happened that Yu came down from the capital. When he heard that Yuan Shang was attacking his brother Tian, he sought ChʻIchou and said, "You, Sir Minister, sit here on guard. Are you waiting till heaven's thunder shall strike the 2 Yuans?" "I have thought it all out," said ChʻIchou. Then he ordered Hung to go and fight against Ye, while he led another army against Yin Kai. Kai could make no adequate defense and was killed by ChʻIchou. His men ran away and presently joined Chou's army. Next he led the army to Hanton, and ChʻIchou came out to fight him. Chang Liu advanced to fight with Chu, and after the 3rd encounter the latter was defeated and fled. Liu went after him, and when their 2 horses were not far apart, Liu took his bow and shot. The fleeing soldier fell as the bowstring twanged. ChʻIchou sent Ma Yen to complete the rout, and ChʻIchou's force was broken up. Now ChʻIchou led his armies to an attack on ChʻIchou. Hung went close to the city, and a regular siege began. The army encompassed the city and began by throwing up great mounds. They also tunneled subterranean ways. Within the city, Shang turned his whole care to the defense and issued the severest commands. The captain of the East Gate, one Feng Lai, got intoxicated and failed to keep his watch, for which he was severely punished. He resented this, sneaked out of the city, went over to the besiegers and told them how the place could be attacked. "The earth within the Tiyumern is solid enough to be tunneled and entrance can be effected there," said the traitor. So Feng Lai was sent, with 300 men, to carry out his plan under cover of darkness. After Feng Lai had deserted to the enemy, Shang went every night to the wall to inspect the men on duty. The night of the sapping he went there as usual, and saw that there were no lights outside the city, and all was perfectly quiet. So he said to himself, "Feng is certain to try to come into the city by an underground road." Whereupon he ordered his men to bring up stones and pile them on the cover of the tunnel opening. The opening was stopped up, and the attacking party perished in the tunnel they had excavated. ChʻIchou, having failed in this attempt, abandoned the scheme of underground attack. He drew off the army to a place above the Herngshui to await till Yuan Shang should return to relieve the city. Yuan Shang heard of the defeat of Yin Kai and ChʻIchou and the siege of his own city, and bethought himself of relieving it. One of his captains, Ma Yen, said, "The high road will surely be ambushed. We must find some other way. We can take a by-road from the western hills and get through at Fushuiku, whence we can fall upon ChʻIchou's camp." The plan was acceptable, and Shang started off with the main body, Ma Yen and Chang Ki being rear guard. ChʻIchou's spies soon found out this move, and when they reported it, he said, "If he comes by the high road, I shall have to keep out of the way. If by the western hills by road, I can settle him in one battle. and I think he will show a blaze as a signal to the besieged that they may make a sortie. I shall prepare to attack both." So he made his preparations. Now Yuan Shang went out by the Fushui Pass east toward Yangping, and near this he camped. Thence to his own city was 17 li. The Fushui stream ran beside the camp. He ordered his men to collect firewood and grass ready for the blaze he intended to make at night as his signal. He also sent Lai Fu, a civil officer, disguised as an officer of ChʻIchou's army, to inform Shang Pa of his intentions. Fu reached the city wall safely and called out to the guards to open. Shang Pa recognized his voice and let him in. Thus Shang Pa knew of the arrangements for his relief, and it was agreed that a blaze should be raised within the city so that the sortie could be simultaneous with Shang's attack. Orders were given to collect inflammables. Then said Fu, "As your food supply is short, it would be well for the old men, the feeble soldiers, and the women to surrender. This will come upon them as a surprise, and we will send the soldiers out behind them." Shang Pa promised to do all this, and next day they hoisted on the wall a white flag with the words, "The populace of ChʻIchou surrender" on it. "Ho ho, this means no food," said ChʻIchou. "They are sending away the non-combatants to escape feeding them, and the soldiers will follow behind them." So on two sides he laid an ambush of 3 companies while he went near the wall in full state. Presently the gates were opened, and out came the people supporting their aged folk and leading their little ones by the hand. Each carried a white flag. As soon as the people had passed the gate, the soldiers followed with a rush. Then ChʻIchou showed a red flag, and the ambushed soldiers fell upon the sortie. The men tried to return, and ChʻIchou's men made a direct attack. The chase continued to the drawbridge, but there they met with a tremendous shower of arrows and crossbow bolts which checked the advance. ChʻIchou's helmet was struck, and the crest carried away. So the men retired. As soon as ChʻIchou had changed his dress and mounted a fresh horse, he set out at the head of the army to attack Yuan Shang's camp. Yuan Shang led the defense. The attack came simultaneously from many directions. The defenders were quite disorganized and presently defeated. Shang led his men back by the hills and made a camp under their shelter. Thence he sent messengers to urge Ma Yen and Chang Ki to bring up the supports. He did not know that ChʻIchou had sent the 2 loose to persuade these 2 into surrender, and that they had already passed under ChʻIchou's banner, and he had made them marquees. Just before going to attack the western hills, he sent the 2 loose with Ma Yen and Chang Ki to seize the source of Yuan Shang's supplies. Shang had realized he could not hold the hills, so he went by night to ChʻIchou. Before he could get camped, he saw flaring lights springing up all around him, and soon an attack began. He was taken aback and had to oppose the enemy with his men half-armed, his steeds unsaddled. His army suffered, and he had to retreat another 50 li. By that time, his force was too enfeebled to show any resistance, and as no other course was possible, he sent to ask that he might surrender. ChʻIchou feigned to consent, but that night he sent a force to raid Shang's camp. Then it became flight, abandoning everything, seals, emblems of office, and even personal clothing. He made for the hills. Then came an attack on ChʻIchou, and to help out this Yu suggested drowning the city by turning the course of the river Chang. ChʻIchou adopted the suggestion, and at once sent a small number of men to dig a channel to lead the water to the city. All told, it was 40 li. Shang Pa saw the diggers from the city wall and noticed that they made only a shallow channel. He chuckled, saying to himself, "What is the use of such a channel to drown out the city from a deep river?" So he made no preparations to keep out the water. But as soon as night came on, ChʻIchou increased his army of diggers tenfold, and by daylight the channel was deepened to 20 feet, and the water was flowing in a great stream into the city where it already stood some feet deep. So this misfortune was added to the lack of food. Shang now displayed the captured seal and garments of Yuan. Shang hung out on spears, to the great shame of their late owner, and called upon the people of the city to surrender. This angered Shang, who avenged the insult by putting to death on the city wall the whole of the Shang family who were within the city. There were nearly 100 of them, and their severed heads were cast down from the walls. Shang wept exceedingly. Shang's nephew Shang Young, one of the gate wardens, was a dear friend of Shang, and the murder of P's family greatly distressed him. He wrote a secret letter offering to betray the city, and tied it to an arrow which he shot out among the besiegers. The soldiers found it, gave it to Shang, and he took it to his chief. ChʻIchou issued an order that the family of the Yuans should be spared when the city should be taken, and that no one who surrendered should be put to death. The next day the soldiers entered by the west gate, opened for them by Shang's nephew. Shang was the first to prance in on horseback, and the men followed. When Shang, who was on the southeast of the city, saw the enemy within the gates, he placed himself at the head of some horsemen and dashed toward them. He was met and captured by Su Huang, who bound him and led him outside the city. On the road they met Shang, who ground his teeth with rage at the murderer of his relatives, and then struck the prisoner over the head with his whip and abused him as a murderer. Shang retorted by calling him traitor and saying how sorry he was not to have slain him before. When the captive was taken into ChʻIchou's presence, ChʻIchou said, "Do you know who opened the gate to let me in?" "No, I know not." "It was your nephew Shang Young who gave up the gate," said ChʻIchou. "He was always unprincipled, and it has come to this," said Shang. "The other day when I approached the city, why did you shoot so hard at me?" "I am sorry we shot too little." "As a faithful adherent of the Yuans you could do no otherwise. Now will you come over to me?" "Never, I will never surrender." Shang threw himself on the ground with lamentations, saying, "80 of my people murdered by this ruffian. I pray you slay him, O minister." "Alive I have served the Yuans," said Shang. "Dead I will be their ghost. I am no flattering time server as you are. Kill me." ChʻIchou gave the order. They led him away to put him to death. On the execution ground he said to the executioners, "My lord is in the north. I pray you not to make me face the south." So he knelt facing the north and extended his neck for the fatal stroke. Who of all official throng in Hopi was true like Shang? Sad his fate. He served a fool but faithful as the ancient men. Straight and true was every word, never from the road he swerved. Faithful unto death, he died gazing toward the Lord he'd served. Thus died Shang, and from respect for his character ChʻIchou ordered that he be buried honorably on the north of the city. ChʻIchou then entered the city. As he was starting, he saw the executioners hurrying forward a prisoner who proved to be Lin. "You wrote that manifesto for Yuan Shao. If you had only directed your diatribe against me, it would not have mattered. But why did you shame my forefathers?" said ChʻIchou. "When the arrow is on the string, it must fly," replied Lin. Those about ChʻIchou urged him to put Lin to death, but he was spared on account of his genius and given a small civil post. Now ChʻIchou's eldest son was named Pa, otherwise Tizu Hang. At the taking of the city, he was 18 years of age. When he was born, a dark purplish halo hung over the house for a whole day. One who understood the meaning of such manifestations had secretly told ChʻIchou that the halo belonged to the imperial class and portended honors which could not be put into words. At 8 the lad could compose very skillfully, and he was well read in ancient history. Now he was an adept at all military arts and very fond of fencing. He had gone with his father on the expedition to ChʻIchou. He led his escort in the direction of the Yüan family dwelling, and when he reached it, he strode in sword in hand. When someone would have stayed him, saying that by order of the minister no one was to enter the house, he bade them begone. The guards fell back and he made his way into the private rooms, where he saw two women weeping in each other's arms. He went forward to slay them. 4 generations of honors gone like a dream, fate follows on ever surely, though slow she seem. The fate of the two women will be told in the next chapter.